All right, so I'm about to spill the tea about my birth. Wow, where do I even begin? Her birth was so wild, completely different than we had planned. Like, oh my goodness. So let me start with, during pregnancy, we hired a doula. So a doula is basically a birth advocate for you. So they are there to help support you through pregnancy, support you through your labor and delivery. And then for myself, I also got postpartum help as well, which I highly recommend. Basically, they're there to teach you how pregnancy, labor, delivery works, tell you your options, and then support you through what you want. And so that was really big for me. At the first of my pregnancy, I know I touched on this in my 3rd trimester update on the blog, but I was not happy with my provider. I was really nervous, I was anxious, and so I looked for a doula basically to help combat that a bit. I ended up switching providers, which made a huge difference as well, but I know if I did not have the doula, Dylan as well, if we didn't have her, things would have gone much differently, I know for sure. So I highly recommend having a doula. We met with our doula 3 different times before we actually gave birth. The first one was just kind of meet her, see if we wanted to do it. I knew 5 minutes after talking to her that she was right for us, that this is what we needed to do, and I was super hyped. Then we met with her the next time and we kind of went over everything that could happen possibly during labor and delivery, so that we knew all of our options. We knew different procedures that could be done, different options that we had for like pain relief, medications, different things like that. And then from there, me and Dylan spent some time figuring out like what our birth plan was and what we, more like birth preferences. You know, plans doesn't go to plan, but you have your preferences to kind of know, and it's really great to be aware and know like what your options are, so when things start happening, you know what the options are. So then we met with her a 3rd time before we actually went into labor, and that's when we went over what we had decided, so that we were all on the same page. That's when we asked our final questions and kind of figured out like, all right, we are ready to go. So other than meeting with the doula, I did a couple different things to prepare for birth, and that was that I tried to stay as active as possible. And then I had red raspberry leaf tea daily through the 3rd trimester. I started eating 6 dates a day at 36 weeks to help ripen my cervix. And then we also did something highly recommended by my doula, which was spinning babies. If you haven't heard of spinning babies, I swear this is what led to her crazy birth. And it was crazy in a good way, not a bad way. But spinning babies is a set of 3 exercises. We did them every couple of days in the 3rd trimester, and then I want to say at like 37, 38 weeks, we started doing them daily just to prepare my body. It helps to position baby in the best position so that they want to just come out as easy as possible, and it worked. At 37 weeks, I went to my doctor's appointment, and now up to this point, people have been telling me that I was going to have my baby super early because I'm so active and my belly's so big, and I'm having this baby super early. So I was really excited. So at 37 weeks, I went to my doctor. I asked to be checked, and I was 0 centimeters. And I was very disappointed because I was super excited to meet my baby, and everyone kept telling me I was going to be having this baby early. Well, I was 0. I left super disappointed and sad. Next weeks go by. I go in at 38 weeks, and I did not get checked because I did not want to be sad if I was still 0 centimeters. So I have no idea what I was. Going at 39 weeks, I was 1 centimeter. Only 1. I was so disappointed and I was so ready to be done going to work because yes, I had been working up until this point and I was ready to have this baby. I was 39 weeks and 6 days. I was at work and I started having contractions. Different contractions than I had been having. I had been having Braxton Hicks all the time, literally all the time, and nothing was consistent or anything. I started having timeable contractions at work that started getting a little bit stronger every time, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is it. We're having a baby today. I stayed at work for probably like 2 more hours waiting for the next pharmacist to come in so that someone was there because I can't just leave because then the pharmacy has to shut down. She gets there, I'm like, all right, girl, we're having this baby. I'm headed out of here. So I go home. Thankfully, Dylan had been off work. And so I met him at the house. I'm like, babe, we're having this baby. We're having this baby today. It's probably gonna be really late or early in the morning, but we're having this baby. Okay, so I'm doing all the things. I'm bouncing on my ball. I'm calling my doula. She's like, you need to calm down and like chill because you need to relax. It's probably gonna take a really long time. This is your first baby. It can take a really long time to have your first baby. Chill out. I did not want to chill out. Oh, and by the way, our AC broke the night before. So it was like 80 degrees in the house. I'm in labor and we're having an air conditioner put in, okay? So that was about 11 o'clock when I got home. And then at about 6 o'clock, everything started stalling out. I was super, super disappointed. I was calling my doula and just asking her like, what the heck is happening? I'm so sad. My contractions are stopping. They were like 5 minutes apart. I'm so sad. Like, what the heck? And she's like, this can happen. And telling me all the things. I did not want to hear the things because I wanted to have this baby and I was so convinced we were having that baby. But everything stalled out and I had random contractions throughout the night. I was up all night. So that was Tuesday night. I was up all Tuesday night having these random contractions, being sad that I wasn't having a baby. So Wednesday came. I stayed home from work because I had stayed up all night and I didn't want to go in and be just like completely exhausted, plus pregnancy brain, not good for patients at the pharmacy. Not a good idea. So I stayed home. Nothing happened. I had my 40-week appointment that day because I was 40 weeks on Wednesday. Go into my appointment and I tell my doctor everything that happened. He was super supportive and was like, this is first time baby things. Don't worry, this is normal. And he offered to do a membrane sweep. And I said yes, because at that point, I was gonna not do the membrane sweep, but since I had already had prodromal labor, I was like, you know what? My body's showing signs that I'm ready to go in labor. Let's just go ahead and do the sweep. That's okay. And so he did the sweep. I was so worried that my water was gonna break. That was like one of the biggest reasons I didn't wanna get the sweep, but I was like, body's showing signs, let's just do it. So I did it. Water didn't break or anything. Everything was fine, and I went home. Nothing happened. Wednesday night goes by, I sleep perfectly, I wake up Thursday morning, nothing's happening, and I'm like, well, forget it. I'm just gonna go to work. So I called my boss and I was like, hey girl, I'm coming to work because nothing's happening and I can't just sit at home. So I go into work at 11:30. Everyone's like, girl, why are you here at work? And I'm like, well, what am I gonna do? Sit at home? No. So I worked the entire shift. Now, I was having horrible back pain, but I didn't know if that was because I was tired. I didn't know if that was because I'm literally 40 weeks pregnant and everything hurts at this point. So is it really that big of a deal? I don't know. But I just remember texting Dylan throughout the day like, oh my gosh, my back hurts. But it was like cramping, but not really. But it wasn't like horrible. Like I was still at work. I didn't need to go home from work or anything. So I just had a really bad backache, and my shift ended at 8 o'clock. I ran straight home. Dylan had a bath going for me. I got in the bath. That lasted like 10 minutes because I was like, this is just uncomfortable. I'm huge and this is not happening. So I get out. After we ate, it was like 9-ish. We started getting ready for bed. I washed my face, brushed my teeth. Dylan's in the other room getting things ready. I had laid down in bed waiting on him to come. And I was actually laying in one of the spinning babies, or the mile circuit, which is also another thing to help get baby in position. But I was laying in one of the positions because it's just really comfortable on my side. And then all of a sudden, I felt what felt like a kick from baby, but in a completely different spot than where she would normally kick. So she usually kicked me up here in my ribs, but this time it was like down over here by my belly button, and it was hard, and it was like this weird popping sound, and I was like, whoa, what was that? And not 2 seconds later, water is gushing from me. My water broke. And I was like, oh my gosh. So I jumped out of bed, ran to the bathroom, Water is gushing. I'm calling Dylan. I'm like, Dylan, my water broke. And he does not hear me, like not paying attention to me at all. So I'm like screaming at him that my water broke. He finally runs in there and I'm like, babe, my water just broke. It's breaking right now. And he's like, oh my gosh, are you serious? So then, I'm not gonna lie, at that moment, absolute panic went through my head. I was group B strep positive, which meant I had to have antibiotics with delivery. They like you to have 2 doses, so they like you to have 1 dose and then another one 4 hours later before you have your baby. I had talked to my doctor about this previously because my plan was that I was laboring at home as long as possible, scooping in to the hospital at the very last second and having this baby because I wanted to be as natural as possible. I really did not want to be induced. I was trying to stay away from as many interventions as possible, and so just laboring at home was going to be the easiest option. But for me, if my water broke, I had to go to the hospital within 3 to 4 hours because I was group B strep positive. So I was just praying this whole time. I had prayed that my water would not break first, that I would go into labor first, and then my water would break. So when my water broke and I was not having contractions or anything, immediate panic. I went to the extremes and I was like, oh my gosh, my water's gonna break. Labor's not gonna start. I'm gonna go in, I'm gonna have to get induced. I'm getting a C-section. Like that's exactly where my brain went. And then, so I was panicking. So then I call my doula immediately. I'm like, hey, my water just broke. And before I could really talk to her, contractions started. So water broke, 2.5 minutes later, contractions started, and they were intense. I'm talking 0 to 100. Everything was happening, and my head, I was just shocked. Like all of this, was shocking. We had no idea what was happening. Dylan's running back and forth trying to time contractions, and then he'd go and run and get the car stuff, and then he'd come back when I was having a contraction to time it and help me through it, and then he'd go back trying to get our bags together to get in the car, help getting the dogs out. It was very dramatic. So I'm calling my doula. I'm like, girl, my water just broke. She's asking me if I had contractions. I said yes. She asked me how long they were apart, and I was like, 2.5 minutes. Like we went from no contractions to my contractions being 2.5 minutes apart. My water broke at 10 p.m. So I got off work at 8, my water broke at 10 p.m. After my contractions started and they were so crazy, I was on the phone with my doula. She lived about 50 minutes away from us. So she had jumped in the car and was heading our way. But things were progressing so fast that I called her back about 15 minutes later and was like, I don't think you're gonna make it in time to us and for us to get to the hospital before it's too late, because the hospital was about 25 minutes away from our house. And so for her to get to us and to there, it was going to be way too long. And I just felt like things were moving way too quickly, that we needed to go straight to the hospital. We get in the car, and it had been about 30 minutes had passed since my water broke and we got in the vehicle. And that drive was the worst experience. I think of the whole thing, honestly. Like sitting in the car, having these contractions, my water is breaking. Nobody told me, first of all, the only thing that I did not know going into this birth that was surprising was that you keep gushing fluids with every contraction after your water broke. Nobody told me that. Like, I was shocked. I thought something was wrong and something bad was happening, and my doula was like, no, that's normal, girl, you're fine. So that was shocking. Heads up, PSA, in case no one tells you. So we drive in the car, get to the hospital. We hadn't even been to the hospital because with COVID protocols, we couldn't go visit and see labor and delivery and all that stuff that you would normally do. So we pull up to the hospital in the ER entrance for just patients, not like the ambulance entrance. Don't worry, regular people entrance. And so we pull up, I get out of the car, I start having a contraction as soon as we got there. So I'm standing at the car, I'm like doing my sways and everything, trying to get through this contraction. So I'm running into the ER. I get up to the nurse's station, immediately start having a contraction again. So here I am holding on to the counter, swaying through my contraction, trying to make it through, telling these people that I'm having a baby and I need to get to labor and delivery right now. And then they finally realize, oh, this girl, like, yeah, she's having a baby. Let me call up there. So they're calling up there. They're getting me a wheelchair. Dylan's right behind me. Car is still in the drive thing. We're in the elevator. I start having another contraction. So I'm standing up because there's no way I'm sitting through these contractions again, because sitting through the contraction was excruciating, like not having it. So I'm here swaying. This lady's trying to get me to sit back down. Dylan's like, let her finish her contraction. So then I sit back down. They wheel me over to L&D. They're trying to ask me all these questions. They're trying to weigh me. They can't get the scale right because everyone was new. Like, it was not good, and I was not in the mood to have these people mess around. I was like, no, this is not happening. So they get me in a room, and they're like, we need to check you, blah, 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 and all this stuff. So between us, my water breaking, and us getting there into a room and them checking me had been about an hour. And so when they checked me, I was a 4. And I was salty. I was so mad that I was only a 4. Like, this was things where I knew that I was further along than that, and they told me I was a 4, and I was just like, no, this is ridiculous. I'm exhausted. I've been at work all day long, and you're telling me I'm a 4 and the pain is this bad. Like, this is horrible. So my doula got there. She's trying to help me through everything. She's doing hip squeezes, telling me everything's okay. Dylan's trying to make sure we're all set up and they have all my information and everything. He had to go back and move the car out of the way. And so they're hooking me up to everything, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, I can't do this. My arms are shaking. I can barely hold myself up. Like, this is crazy. And so finally I was like, I need an epidural, and I need that epidural yesterday. And so then I'm like, before I get the epidural, let me get checked again, because if I'm closer, then I'm just gonna push through. It'll be fine. They checked me again. I was at a 6. So I was like, if I'm at a 6, I still got to get to a 10. I'm already this exhausted, and then I got to push a baby out. I need that epidural. So anesthesiologist comes in, set me up for an epidural. That was probably the hardest part, was sitting there trying to get this epidural, going through these super intense contractions and not moving. I get the epidural, and they're like, okay, give it about 15, 20 minutes and it'll start working, blah, blah, blah. No, it's a lie. It was a lie. So after about 20 minutes, I can still move my legs. I feel everything. I'm wiggling my toes. Like, it is not working. Okay. And they're like, okay, we'll get anesthesiology back in here to fix the dosing because it's not working. It should work by now. Anesthesiology gets back in there, but I start feeling like I need to push. And so I was like, wait, I feel like I need to push. Check me again before he gives me another dose. Because one of my biggest fears with getting the epidural was that I would lose all the feeling and I wouldn't be able to push effectively. And so I was really afraid that if they gave me that dose, that I wasn't going to be able to feel anything. And I felt like I needed to push. So I was like, whoa, wait, check me again. So the nurse checked me again. I was a 10, and she was like, okay, yeah, you're ready to push. And I was like, okay, forget the epidural. Just go away, dude. I don't need you at this point. Like, we've made it this far, leave. At that point, they were like, you can start pushing. So I started pushing, and I asked for the mirror. They wheeled this giant mirror over, which was super cool to see everything, until it wasn't cool that I wasn't progressing. And I started getting mad from seeing no progress, and everyone kept telling me I was doing so great, and I knew it was a lie. So I am just here pushing as hard as I can. I had been pushing for a while, and I felt like I wasn't progressing. I could see in the mirror that it was not happening. My doula's like, hey, do you want to change positions? You can feel your legs. We can move. And I was like, you're right. So I actually flipped over onto my hands and knees to push that way. And all the nurses almost had a heart attack because I had my epidural and I'm literally flipping over, but I could feel everything. So I was like, I don't even care what you're telling me right now. So I flip over. I tried that for a few pushes, and honestly, it just didn't feel right. Pushing on my back felt better, which is really weird because most people feel better pushing in different positions, but on my back was actually the best for me. And y'all, this was an absolute miracle. My doctor was supposed to be leaving town Friday morning at like 8 o'clock and wouldn't be back for like 4 or 5 days. I just knew that someone else was delivering my baby, and I was really sad because I really wanted him to be there. And he walked in, it was Friday morning at like 2 a.m. and here he was. He walked in and I was like so shocked that he made it, and I was very, very excited that he made it. So he came in, looked at me, walked out. I'm still pushing. He comes back in and he's like, all right, it's almost time. I'm still pushing. I can feel that I'm not making enough progress. And all these nurses, Dylan, the doula, everyone was like, you're doing so great. And I was like, are you lying to me? Because I am obviously not doing great. The doctor was like, no, you really are doing a really great job. And I was like, are you being serious right now? Because I need to know what I need to do better if not. I pushed some more, and then she finally came out, and it was like it felt like relief. Like it was almost immediately, like there was so much pain. I was pushing so hard. There was a lot of pressure. And then all of a sudden she came out and it was like immediate relief. It was the best feeling, like obviously the pain, but then also like here was my baby, and it was just like the most incredible, beautiful thing ever, and like mind-blowing. It took me 2 hours of pushing to get this girl out. Come to find out, she was 9 pounds and 1 ounce. No wonder it took me so long to get this girl out, and miraculously I had no tearing. I needed no stitches. Like, whoa. And then all of a sudden my placenta was out, which a lot of people I had read, like the placenta can be hard to deliver and like, you know, everything like that. But like, I was just so in awe of my new baby that I had no idea that I was delivering a placenta. Like I had no idea. I was not even focused on that at all, which is probably why it wasn't as painful as some people say. But the placenta came out and he was like, okay, placenta's out. And then my husband was like, whoa, 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 wait, she's gonna wanna see that. And he was like, what? And I sat up and I was like, oh, y'all wanna see? So the doctor like held up my placenta so I could see, because I thought it was just like the most fascinating thing, like this whole organ that I grew with this baby, like, whoa, super, super cool. But yeah, then our little baby girl was born happy and healthy, and it was just like the craziest wild experience, but I'm so glad it happened the way that it did. And even though it was completely different than we expected, it was really best case scenario. My whole goal going into my labor and delivery was just to have a positive birth experience no matter what happened, and just to feel empowered that what we wanted to happen happened, whether that was with interventions or not. And I feel like that's what happened. We had a super positive birth experience, and I'm so, so grateful for that. And I'm super, super thankful for my healthy little girl. Big recap: left work at 8, water broke at 10, got to the hospital at 11, and she was born at 3 a.m. exactly. It was just nothing like we had expected, because everyone had told me that my labor was gonna be so long because it was my first labor and all this stuff. And she came so fast, and I swear it is because we did spinning babies and she was in the right position. It was the right time, and she just came like boom. It was awesome. It was awesome that my doctor was able to be there. Dylan was incredible. He was feeding me ice chips the whole time because I was so thirsty. He's giving me ice every like 2 minutes. So Dylan just corrected me and told me that every 2 minutes of getting ice was wrong. It was like every 20 seconds. Don't worry, like the pain is so worth it. And like the pain is for a purpose, and it goes away almost instantly when that baby gets here. Like it's the craziest, coolest. Our body is awesome. Let me tell you, the woman's body is awesome, which is why I love women's health so much. Yeah, so that is my birth story. I hope you enjoyed it. I know I loved watching birth stories leading up to my birth, just to kind of know like things that happen, because a lot of times people don't talk about these things, and a lot of things happen between starting labor and everything. So be on the lookout. I am going to do some postpartum videos as well, because I think it's a great way to see like what the heck happens, because there's so much stuff people don't talk about and that I think need to be said. So be on the lookout for those videos. I hope you enjoyed this video. Subscribe so you never miss another video, and we will see you later. Bye guys.